Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by the Hard Truth Distilling Company in Brown County, Indiana.
So for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world. Time!
Three on the way. Oh! It went in! It went in! And Indiana wins the ball game!
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Float game for the win! Ayler's gone. Goodbye. Touchdown, Indy. Woo! IU America. They got
Like, I know you-
team now.
It's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
You know that I'm the cream of the crop.
Now, from the Hard Truth Studios, here's Jim Coyle.
Good day. Welcome aboard to another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming to you on this Wednesday, a very chilly Wednesday. Boy, did the temperatures dip down last night. Glad to have you along. We'll try to warm things up. Hope your week is going well. The good thing is you've made it to the halfway point. It's all downhill from here. Looking forward to talking to Dylan Sinn on the program. He'll join us here in the next segment. And later in the second hour, Rick Bozich, Neddenriep. We'll hear from Mike Woodson today. But don't expect to hear much different than you haven't already heard. How you doing, IU basketball fans? Yeah, people seem to be up in arms without question. Boy, the Andy Moore Honda hotline is lit up. We're going to have a good day here at the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios, delivering some hard truth, but not going to be a beatdown session like a lot of people expect, a lot of people want to hear. Here's the thing. I don't view this stuff as a fan, so I don't get caught up in it. There's no surprise for me here. This is not something new. It's just coming to a head is all, but here's the thing. I say this over and over. For those people that think that there needs to be change, then you're going to have to endure what you're enduring right now. That's how it works. And for those of you that are not in that camp, then I don't know what you have to hold on to be honest with you. Indiana lost their fifth game of the season last night at home to the number 19 Illini. Boy, did they. Had given up 60 points at the half. Indiana was outscored by, now I've got to go back to yesterday's notes to be able to pronounce Kaspers's name. I remember his first name, but how to pronounce his last name, not going to happen until I find, oh, darn it, I can't find where I had it written down where Mike DeCourcy had said it. The Lithuanian kid, he lit Indiana up. His true freshman, no less. Dude was on fire, man. He came out, I think he hit his first 4 shots at least. And then the Bozich dude knocking down 3-pointers. Illinois looked like a really, really good basketball team. They have the nice pieces. They've got length. They've got some quickness at guard, but they've got a superstar out there. And Yashnik, however you say his name, I hate to say it. He only ended up with 21 points, and he had 19 at the half. As a matter of fact, he wasn't even the leading scorer on the team. That went to Boswell, who had 22. Well, they end up with 1, 2, 3, 4 guys in double figures. Ivisic was limited by fouls. He ended up with 17. Indiana ended up getting 5 guys into double figures. Had some problems at the end. Goody fouls out. Ballo gets a technical. A little scrum at the end of the game. A little frustration. I will say that Greg Doyle was in the post-game presser last night, and he was kind of all on a hunt about the end of the game. The issue with, I didn't even see what Ballo did. Shove somebody or something, I don't know. But I mean, there was a lot of that going on. And that's going to happen in the heat of a moment, especially in a game you're getting beat like that. And that was kind of his focus. I'm like, dude, there are 1,000 other things that are way more important to focus on. That's not it. I haven't seen what he wrote, but I just found that to be funny. That's not Indiana's issue. Now, if that's going to be tied to some kind of lack of discipline or whatever, well, I don't think there's any discipline on this team, but I don't think there's any discipline on the team in generalities. I mean, they're all good guys, first of all. And so there's no point in just sitting here beating on this team for the next 2 months. I know what is going on. I know what they have. I know what the situation is. So complaining about it, that's not really going to do you guys a lot of good. Just realize that you've only got a couple of months until spring football rolls around. Hey, let's go ahead and take a quick break. Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette will join us next. We'll continue the conversation. He was there in Bloomington last night as well. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Appreciate you guys being with us right after this break.
At Ben Davis Chevrolet and Ben Davis Ford in Auburn, we're your one-stop shop for all of your automotive needs. We have the area's best selection of over 300 vehicles, including new cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs. Plus a huge selection of pre-owned vehicles in stock. And if we don't have what you're looking for, we'll find it for you. We also have top-of-the-line service and parts, plus a collision repair center, and we're competitively priced on everything. For sales, service, collision, parts, and more, we do it all. Come see us today or visit us online at BenDavisChevrolet.com and BenDavisFord.com.
Enjoy healthy, delicious meals at home without the hassle with the Fresh Fork. Chef-curated, ready-made meals delivered right to your doorstep. Proudly fueling IU athletes and now available to you with a menu that's always fresh and diverse, from hearty proteins to fresh salads. The Fresh Fork empowers you to make better food choices without compromising. Let the Fresh Fork help transform your lifestyle for a healthier way of living today at thefreshforkonline.com. Use promo code RADIO20 and get $20 off your first order.
Country living is just a swing away. It can be hard to find the exact home that fits your family's needs, so there couldn't be a better time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Revesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com.
Ugly Grouper, located on beautiful Anna Morale in Florida, is the place to be, and not just because they have unforgettable meals, including locally sourced seafood. The Ugly Grouper has your favorite craft beers and cocktails, along with live music every day. The Ugly Grouper is family-friendly, able to host private parties, and has the biggest grouper you've ever seen. The Ugly Grouper is the place to be on Anna Marie Island, Florida. Tell them Indiana Sports Beat sent you. Go to theuglygrouper.com for more information. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum, Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. with a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music. You can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Wednesday. Thank you so much for being with us, no matter where, how you're listening, especially on our great affiliates like 97.7 ESPN, the Ref, always the right call in Evansville, up in the region on the voice of the region, 1230 AM, 104.7 FM, WJOB, and Fort Wayne's only sports station, 1380 The Fan. Keep it locked right here for great programming throughout the day. Joined now by Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. Dylan, you were down in Bloomington last night as well, and well, there's not a lot to say, to be honest with you, but there is a lot to say. 90 points is the I'm going to have to cough here, so I'm going to take a 1 second break when I'm talking. It's weird when you feel that coming on. Excuse me. Getting a little of the winterness going on, but Indiana allows 90 points last night, the most ever in Simon Scott Assembly Hall. They allowed 60 in the first half, also a record. They were lucky to only give up 90 points. That means Illinois scored about half of what they scored in the second half. But they found it very easy to achieve that. In my opinion, Dylan, they looked they're a good team, don't get me wrong, but they didn't have to work extraordinarily hard to make that happen. They just seemed like they were going through the normal flow of their offense.
Yeah, it was a poor game plan. I thought Indiana thought that they could force Illinois to shoot threes, I think was the plan, and they wouldn't make them. And in the first half, they did. They made 8 of their first 16, and that was it, really. They kept going under screens. And it was kind of indicative. The very first play of the game, Trey Galloway went way, way under a screen. He was 6 feet off the shooter by the time he took the shot. Ball went in. You know, it was obviously it didn't work out what they were trying to do. And it just kind of, and then Illinois got hot. I think during the middle of the first half there, they made some shots with IU hands in their face. They made some shots that were wide open. It was just kind of a parade of poor possessions on defense for Indiana. And then, of course, you give them extra possessions by not boxing out. They couldn't clean the glass at all. Umar Ballo missed a box out. He immediately gets taken out of the game. Langdon Haddon comes in, immediately gives up an offensive rebound and a putback. First 2 possessions he's in, they get 5 second chance points. So it was just one of those things where it was not going well in any way, shape, or form. And yeah, 60 points in the first half is a wild number. I mean, that's the thing is Illinois scored 94 points, and they did it while shooting 40% and only forcing 10 turnovers. Indiana only turned the ball over 10 times. You scored 94 points without really that many in transition, without really shooting the ball all that well overall. They missed a lot of shots in the second half, especially. So I guess Indiana's game plan worked after a while. It took a little bit for the shots to stop falling, but they did. It's far too late, obviously. But yeah, just kind of a really odd performance that not only did I not see coming, but I don't really know what to take away from it, because it was just so odd in terms of the efficiency of Illinois and also just the way that Indiana was not essentially out there.
No, and the first place you got to start for when you're trying to break this down is easy, because it's the same place that I've started for 3 straight games, and that is Mackenzie Mbako. 2 points
He only played 7. No, this is the first half. My bad. Let me get the full game stats pulled up before I go off. I'm sorry. He had 4 whole points for the game. 1 of 10 on the night.
And the only shot he made was in the first minute. He made a tough jumper in the very first minute of the game.
That's right. That's right. And I remember thinking, all right, is this a good sign for Indiana? Because I noted that in a tweet. And no, it was not. But he was not the only one. It was, another bad start, but it's not. I don't know what the answer is, but this happens a lot. So when you have frequency and consistency of something, there's something that backs that up. There's a reason for it. We can all guess. I've got some guesses on why, but Indiana has a lot of games in front of them yet. The issue to me is just go listen to Brad Underwood's press conference last night. He talks about the game in specifics, and we did this happen, rebounding. Well, that's a focal point. He goes into that, and poor Woody in the pressers. I mean, let's be honest. When you ask a question, you're going to get an answer, but you're generally not going to get an answer to the question that is asked. And that's just a fact. I mean, excuse me. Even the question I asked Anthony Leal last night, I'll get that out here in a little bit, but he talked about there's obviously things that we need to do, that we need to address, that we need to change. And he said all those things. But my question was, why? Why are players not playing with pride? Why are they not coming out and playing with everything at the start of the game? Why are all these things continuing to happen? You're 18 games into the season. And not to put pressure on those guys, it's hard to sit up there in front of a room full of the media. So this is not about them, but they don't have answers is the end of the gist of it. Nobody. Woodson, there just don't seem to be answers.
I think that was my biggest takeaway from after the game was that they don't seem to have that. They don't know when we ask these questions, they don't know the answer. And I think Woodson, especially, I think he was asked about the defense in the first half, giving up 60 points. And his first response was, "I wish I knew."
I knew. Okay, I couldn't remember what question it was.
Yeah,
I hadn't pulled up the transcript yet.
Yeah,
but that was one I was going to be looking for to play on today's show.
Yeah,
that when soon as he gave that, and the sad part is, I believe that to be the answer.
Yeah,
and if you don't know, who knows, dude? You're being paid $4 million to do this.
Like I'm sure he could tell you like X's and O's things that went wrong, but really it wasn't about the X's and O's. It's about the team coming out and fighting, right? And I think that I don't know if there's a good answer to why they're not doing it. It's just I don't think this is a team that doesn't care. Let's be clear about that. I think these guys care. I think that Luke Goody and Anthony Leal went up there and showed after the game that they care, but it's not with enough frequency and it's not with enough consistency, right? Like there have been games this year where they play really hard. They did it against USC last week. I thought they played great against USC, right? It just hasn't been like there are just games. And I think Anthony Leal kind of spoke to this a little bit after the game where you need to be able to take a punch. And Indiana has not been this season, especially able to take a punch. And I think that's what's been most disappointing for me because last year, I thought despite the fact that they didn't have the talent to really win consistently, I do think that I thought that there were some games last year where they were down and they really took a punch and kept coming. I thought that was really impressive to me at times. And this year they just haven't shown it. When things start to go badly for them, it really spirals in a way that's like you can feel them letting go of the rope. Like you could Luke Goody mentioned it. They were down, I think, 12-8 at the under 16 media timeout last night. And they were running fine offense in the early going. They had good energy in the early going. And then Illinois made, I think, a couple of baskets in a row, and you could just feel it. You could feel that they were letting go, that it wasn't going well, and that they were kind of getting that deer in headlights look. And that, like Anthony Leal said it. You need to be able to take a punch. You need to be able to sustain punches and keep coming, because there are going to be times where you're going to struggle in a game, but you got to keep coming. And that's what it's going to take to win. And it's also what it's going to take to avoid blowout losses, because I think that is, I mean, look, you look at their record and it's not that bad. They're 13-5 and they're 4-3 in the Big Ten, but that is not something that like you should be getting the pitchforks over, but it's the way they've lost those games, which is all 5 of their losses have come by at least
22.5 points.
Right. And so why are you not able to stay in these games, especially with some teams that are great? Illinois is not a great thing. They're a good team, certainly, but they're not a team to be away from like that. The talent is not that unequal. So that is, to me, the biggest thing is that taking a punch is where they need to improve, and they need to do it fast.
Yeah, they are now number 64 in the net rankings, so they dropped 4 spots over last night. And let's see, they've got a game coming up. What Friday?
Is
Friday Ohio State already?
At Ohio State, yeah.
So now they have to go on the road. Now they're playing a team which is quite capable of being beaten by Indiana. There's no doubt about that. Yeah. But Indiana has they did go on the road to Penn State and get, well, their only good win of the season, to be honest with you. So it's not something they can't do. But with the way things have been going for this team, as far as Mackenzie Mbako, 3 games in a row now, he scored in single digits.
Yeah.
That is, and he played 19 total minutes. You can't have that. Galloway, 10 points, and a lot of that came in trash time.
Yeah.
So
he made 2 threes at the end after missing the first 3 or 4. And yeah.
Indiana started 0 for 13.
0 for 13.
Behind the 3-point line.
They made 4 of their last 5.
Oh yeah, when there was no pressure on.
Yeah.
I wonder for something to that, because they seem to be going in rather easily at that point. But
I mean, that was the thing to me, is that in the second half they played well enough at the start of the second half where they weren't going to win the game, but if they had made a couple of shots, there was a chance that they really would actually put some pressure on Illinois. And they had some shots to cut it to 13, 14 points, and there were open threes, and none of them went in. None of them were even particularly close.
Now, did Mike Woodson blow off Don Fisher in the post game? Apparently,
he didn't do a post game interview with Don Fisher. I don't know if he blew him off. He didn't do it. I assume he wanted to get back to the locker room and talk to the players quickly, and let them get out of there. But yeah, it's one of those things where, on top of everything else, it's just not what you want, essentially.
Appreciate you, David. Referring on the Andy Moore hotline about the question I asked Anthony. I'll pull that up in for the next segment. We'll have that, and we'll listen to that, as we'll hear some Mike Woodson today as well. But and Indiana they've got a lot of games left, man. 13 games remain, I think. So it's not that they don't have the opportunities ahead of them to change things, but I mean, you have to be realistic. You just look at the math. I had Evan Miyakawa on yesterday, and all that's about is stats. Well, numbers tell a lot. They tell a lot of stories. They tell some irrefutable stories. You know, there's no subjectivity in the numbers, and certain style numbers tell different things. With Evans, situation. He tells what are the most successful combinations, successful lineups, most efficient teams, and all of that matter. And Indiana is just they're not they don't have good numbers, period, and their metrics are just getting worse now, dropping to number 64 in the net, and they have yet to beat a team other than Penn State in the top 70, I believe, of the net. Average losses are to teams, or the wins are over teams 145. There's no tournament at the end of the rainbow for this team. And I cannot, even though there's a year left on his contract, there's no question a change will have to be made. We'll talk about that possibility. On the other side, Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette is in the house. We've got more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios, because it's a Hard Truth day right after this. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. When it comes to apparel and promotions, Freethink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. Freethink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. Freethink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what Freethink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com. Know a team or group needing a fundraiser? Boost Fundraising raises more money faster and offers the most unique and user-friendly online fundraiser in the nation. Your team receives personalized fundraising pages for each team member. Free team-branded promo gifts shipped to each donor. Boost Fundraising does it all. Sports teams, marching bands, charity causes, and community groups. Go to boostfundraising.com and be sure to enter the promo code COYLE, that's C-O-Y-L-E, to receive a discounted fundraiser. If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Remax Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from Remax Realty at Cheryl@IndyHomePros.com or 317-701-0838. 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore help you find the home you want today.
At Ben Davis Chevrolet and Ben Davis Ford in Auburn, we're your one-stop shop for all of your automotive needs. We have the area's best selection of over 300 vehicles, including new cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs. Plus a huge selection of pre-owned vehicles in stock. And if we don't have what you're looking for, we'll find it for you. We also have top-of-the-line service and parts, plus a collision repair center, and we're competitively priced on everything. For sales, service, collision, parts, and more, we do it all. Come see us today or visit us online at bendavischevrolet.com and bendavisford.com.
Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. Jim Coyle with you as always. Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette also. And before I forget, I want to give a shout out. All you people up in Fort Wayne, one of our great affiliates on 1380 The Fan. Like I said, keep it locked here all day long. No place to go anywhere, and reason to go anywhere else. But the folks of Fort Wayne are very, very fortunate to have someone like Dylan on the beat, going to these IU games. It's not an easy trip from Fort Wayne to Bloomington, people. The trip is easy. It just takes a minute. And can you imagine doing that twice a week. I mean, how long is that trip? 3 hours one way?
It's about 2:45. Yeah.
So he does this all the time, down and back. So you folks are very, very fortunate to have someone that provides the coverage, not just of Indiana, but Notre Dame, Purdue. He does a fantastic job for you guys. I mean, most guys that are on a beat don't have to do that. They're usually in the town where they are, and they're not covering multiple beats. But hey, that's the life of a newspaper scribe, right, brother?
That's right. That's right. And I mean, I'm glad I was there last night. I mean, it's one of those things where there are a lot of games that I probably could just cover from TV. Last night was not one of them. It was good to be in that arena and kind of feel what was going on, I think. So,
well, and I'll tell you this. Here's the funny thing. I didn't hear apparently a lot of the booing.
Yeah.
And part of it's because, no offense to anybody, but that damn band is between me and the students.
Yeah.
And, the only thing about the band that I don't like is at the beginning of the games when you're in there and the shoot-around's going on and the music's playing and they'll have a good song on. I think I've mentioned this before. It could be a Guns N' Roses song. Who knows? You're rolling, all of a sudden, da-da-da-da-da-da. And it's like, oh, man, come on. It's one of those things you have to be there for, I guess. But and I want to give a shout out to all the people that stop me and say hi. Man, I am so grateful when any of you guys do that. I'm always in shock that anybody watches this. So I appreciate you for proving me wrong, but I'm grateful for each and every one of you guys. Dylan, I've tried to, I've said this a couple times now. It would be easy to sit here and just, bang on these, just take a couple of pots and pans and bang about Indiana basketball. This is nothing new. There's no change. This is the same. This is what you've had. You're getting the same. I don't blame Scott Dolson. Now, normally that's exactly where the figure would point, but I don't think that, I think that he was handcuffed a bit. I've mentioned this before, but since you're with us, there was a story up on the Hoosier.com last year, Indiana Rivals, that went up asking, should Indiana be proactive, make a move now? But Indiana was in this same situation a year ago, struggling, had bad net numbers because they were barely beating teams that they should be killing, losing to teams that they getting crushed by, the non-con teams. And a story ran that asked, should Indiana be proactive, make the move now, and go get someone like Dusty May before he gets sucked up by another program? We were asked to take that story down. And I find that had we been a newspaper, that wouldn't have happened. I truly don't believe. But there's no hide. I guess the gist of this is there's no hiding this now. And it's not going to change. But I keep telling Indiana fans, hey, you're going to have to endure an entire season of this because Indiana will not do anything during the season.
No, it's just not how Indiana operates. They're not a mid-season firing team. Kelvin Sampson accepted, which was obviously special circumstances. That's not how Indiana operates. I do think that, and look, I am going to make this point. I think it's important that I kind of show my bona fides here. I did not think they should have fired Mike Woodson at the end of last season. I didn't think they should have, and I still believe it. I still believe it was the correct decision to give him another year.
And I agree with you on the side of the right thing to do.
Yeah.
My pushback would be it was obvious that it needed to be done, but sometimes things are not as obvious as they seem. But I apologize. Go ahead.
I do think that it's clarifying. It's clarifying. Really, I think Michigan basically did the same thing. I know Michigan is not Indiana in basketball, right? But Michigan did the same thing where they were I believe 16 and 18 in 2022-23. And they brought back Juwan Howard, right? And they went 8 and 24 last year. And it was one of those things where there was no doubt anymore. And I think that that's kind of what Indiana is doing. And that's what it did, is the idea was, all right, look, last season did not go the way we wanted. You can make all the reasons for that. But I do think that it was one of those things where we give you a prove it year, right? We'll give you the resources to go out and get players and fix it quickly. We'll let you get your guys and see what happens. And I do think that last night was the clarifying moment. It was one of those things where you could kind of say, okay, well, this team has a lot of talent. It could be coming together. It could be all of this and all of that. And then Iowa happened. It was like, all right, what kind of response does this team have? Because it felt like the season was hanging in the balance going into last night. What kind of response are you going to have? How are you going to respond? And I do think that last night was the moment. It was the moment where it was like, all right, this isn't going to happen. I do think it's probably over. And they're not going to make a change until the end of the season. That's just not how they operate. But I do think that last night was probably about it. And so I think that that's in that way. Now there's no doubt anymore. And I think that that's why I was on board with keeping him for another year and saying, hey, let's see what happens. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And then you're sure. And you can say, hey, we gave him as much leash as we could. And we gave him as much grace as we possibly could have. And it didn't work. And it hasn't worked. And so now the choice is clear, in my opinion.
Christopher says what he dislikes the most is that Woodson stops coaching when the game gets out of hand. Well, I don't know how much. Well, never mind. I'm not going to throw that easy statement out there. And then someone mentioned, how could you not see what Ballo did? I think that the basketball goal may have blocked what, because I didn't see that where he was standing way off to the side after that for a while. I didn't know he was standing there. What did Ballo do?
Yeah. Okay. So basically, here was the order of events. So Goody boxes out. Their center is named Ivicic. He's a freshman. Goody boxed him out.
That dude's a freshman too.
Yeah, he's a freshman. Yeah.
So you're telling me two freshmen by themselves outscored Indiana in the first half last night?
I believe so. Yeah.
No, that's a fact. That's a fact. I posted it. They outscored him 36-34, I believe.
Yeah. So anyway, so Goody boxed him out, and they called a foul on Goody. I thought it was a bad call, and so did Goody. But that's not really the point here. Ivicic basically did not like the fact that Goody boxed him out that way and got in his face and was saying some stuff. And Miles Rice came over and basically shoved Ivicic away. And then Ivicic gets in Miles Rice's face. And so then it starts becoming kind of a little bit of a skirmish. And Umar Ballo comes over because he had been kind of leaking out back down court for a possible run out. And so he comes over from basically the 3-point line and comes running in behind, because it's a pile of people. He comes running in from behind the pile, and basically he can't get through the pile because there's too many people. So he leaps over the pile and kind of shoves with one hand Ivicic, who is not looking at him, who is now focused on Miles Rice. And it was just like, I think
is that when Ivicic went down, and Ivicic went down, or someone went down. I thought he tripped over.
He didn't go down. He didn't go down.
I thought someone tripped.
Yeah, he stumbled back. Like the shove made him stumble backwards, and he was close enough to like the row of photographers along the front there that he kind of tripped over them and kind of had to steady himself. No one actually fell down, but I do think that actually Luke Goody had the right response, which was, I really appreciate him sticking up for me as a teammate. Like, that's the right thing to do. He just went about it the wrong way. Ivicic was the instigator in this situation. Let's be clear about that. He was not happy with Luke Goody boxing him out in a 30-point game. Good for Luke Goody for continuing to play hard.
I don't think
he did.
They did do that. They didn't do that very much during the game.
Well, that's the thing. Luke Goody made that point after the game was that they didn't, first of all, but Luke Goody was called for a foul twice for just putting his butt into Ivicic, and it was not the correct call. But that's a very small thing about the game. But it was not a good rebounding night for Indiana, to say the least. But Ivicic was the guy who started the whole thing. Bella, you can't do that. I would not be surprised if he's suspended. It was not a hard shove, and the reason it wasn't a hard shove is because he couldn't really get a whole lot of momentum on it because he was 6 feet away. So it was just kind of an odd situation. I would like to have seen maybe if he wanted to do something, I would have liked to have seen him push his way through the pile and just kind of basically stand up to Ivicic and say, "Hey, talk to me. Pick on someone your own size," essentially. That wasn't what happened, but at least there was some fire at the end of that game, I think. And maybe it's one of those things where you're beaten and you're embarrassed, but at least they didn't leave with their tail tucked between their legs, I guess, is if you want to put a positive spin on it.
Hard to, I mean, here, I don't have a problem with any of that. Again, no. When you're in the heat of a game, when you're getting your butt kicked by 30, man, there are so many emotions and none of them are good that are inside of you. Seriously. I mean, You've got a ton of emotions going on and none of them are good. You're pissed, you're upset, you're embarrassed, you're all kinds of things. So it doesn't take much to spark that fuel. I don't have a problem with that, man. That happens in sports. And again, I haven't seen what Greg Doyle's going to right now. If he's tying that into a bigger picture lack of discipline, well, yeah. But that's not something we don't know. All this stuff is things that we already know because this team is doing the same things they've done. Very inconsistent, not successful shooting the long ball. When Evan Miyakawa was on yesterday, there was a couple of facts that he gave that were kind of amazing. Indiana this season, 9-0 when holding teams to 52% or below on 2-point shooting. Shots inside the arc. 4-4 when they're not. So that meant every team that they had lost to this year had better than 52% shooting. But that did not happen last night. No. Illinois shot 40% overall, but it was the 3-point shots that, like you mentioned that earlier, that killed them. They, they ended up 11 for 32, but 34%, but they were like at 39% early on when they did the damage. The damage was done in the first half.
Yeah, they made 8 of their first 16. So they went 3 for 16 over the rest of the game, but they made 8 of their first 16 to build that lead.
And now I did not realize that Ivicic is a freshman as well. That means Kasparis. Do you know how to say how to?
I am not even going to try. I'm going to be honest with you.
I had it yesterday, because when Mike DeCourcy was on with me yesterday, and he said it, and I wrote it down immediately as he said it, so I could repeat it, but I cannot find where I wrote that, so I'm not going to try either, and it makes me mad because I was last night before the game, I was talking to some people, and the conversation was going on. I'm like, yeah, I can't remember. I don't have the note in front of me, so I'm not even going to try to say his name. But they're a good-looking team. Before the game, I was watching them. The length they have, when you talk about playing two bigs, there are different types of bigs. Ballo and Renew are bigger-bodied guys. They're post guys. But Ivicic, he's a ranger, man. He stepped out smooth on he hit 3 of 6 from behind the arc. He was knocking it down.
That was the game plan for Indiana. Like I said earlier, they obviously thought we can't beat this team if Ivicic is making threes, give them to him. And he made 3 out of 6. That was the game plan. That I think was what was most frustrating or at least surprising was like they didn't think they could beat Illinois without like giving up some threes, without like basically letting them shoot some threes. Because Illinois going into the game was not a good 3-point shooting team overall, 33%, I think, which is basically what they were for the game. But they just made a bunch of them in the first half that helped, like, especially, obviously Indiana gave up some, but there was also some where they were really well contested and they just went in. And it was like, okay, well, this is in addition to everything else, this is not Indiana's night. Like, you're not boxing out and you're not playing great defense, but also on top of that, Illinois is just going nuts in a way they almost normally don't. So it was a kind of cherry on top for that as well.
Yeah. Let's see, Fred. Where did that question go? Fred's asking, can you share with us the feeling observations of the crowd last night? Well, you know what? I'm going to defer to Dylan because where you sit is right next to the student section. Again, I didn't hear as much across there. What was going on with the students?
Yeah,
as far as their vocalization.
Yeah, first of all, it was a good crowd. Like, that was the thing. It looked empty at tip-off.
Well, I sent out a tweet saying, hey, you know what? I got to get a huge shout out to this crowd because no matter what, Indiana had been down the whole game, down badly. Yep. But we were in the game the whole time, and I was amazed. So once again, I'm glad you brought that up. They deserve a huge shout out. The students and the fans and the regular fans all stayed in that game.
Yeah. I mean, early in the second half, Indiana goes on that 10-0 run. They're still down 18, but they go on a 10-0 run. The place was going nuts. Like, it felt like the game was close. And so, yeah, shout out to the crowd. It was a good crowd. But what happened was basically you could feel them getting restless as the first half went on. It was the rebounding that I think was really bothering people. Because every time they would grab an offensive rebound, you could hear this collective like intake of breath and just muttering. Like, you could hear, "Come on, grab a rebound!" Like it shouldn't be that hard, basically. And it kind of kept building, and then they got down 25 with about 5 minutes left in the first half, and you could kind of hear it bubbling. And then the Fire Woodson chants started pretty loudly. And immediately the cheerleaders and the band tried to drown it out with it, like their own like "Go IU" chant, and you could kind of hear the chants battling for a minute. But you could clearly hear what was being said, especially from our vantage point. And then a lot of people left at halftime. The student section was about only half full at the start of the second half. And as people were leaving, you like at least 3 or 4 people like walked by the media row, which is, if you don't know, the media row in the rafters of Assembly Hall, it's within the fans. So when they're walking out, they're walking right past the media. And at least 3 or 4 people like just shouted over at us, "You guys are media, tweet Fire Woodson, tweet it." And wow. Basically trying to make us get the message out. And like, I don't really think that's news to anyone. The fans were not happy. But I do think that's kind of indicative of where that game got to by the end of the first half last night, which I guess I'm not really surprised considering how poorly it went.
Yeah, losing is one thing, especially, I mean, it's not an embarrassment to lose to number 19 Illinois, who is a very good team, a tournament team, a team that has been successful under Brad Underwood. No matter what happens year after year, he rides with the ebbs and flows, with the changes. And again, I say, go back and listen to his presser. It's up on our YouTube channel. Listen to the answers he gives. Seriously, go in there and listen. Just any question, any answer. He answers the questions. Where with Indiana, let me try to get this question up. I'll try to add this. This is Mike Woodson.
Specifics, a lot of what you say in the locker rooms, but after a first half like that, just what do you say to a team to try and pick them back up, try and just kind of keep guys together, if nothing else?
Long season, man. I mean, you can't throw in the towel. I mean, we didn't play well the first half, but we were awful. And I thought we came out the second half and we competed, and played a lot better, but the damage was already done in the first half. You got to give Illinois a lot of credit, their coaching staff. They played great.
Yeah, Coach. Big picture. I mean, you guys are 1-5 in quad one games. I think it's 15-34 in quad one games over the last 3+ years. What do you see as the problem? You guys not competing with consistency against the better opponents?
Well, I mean, we've had some good games against big-time opponents.
When?
Over the 3 years, you know, the record doesn't indicate that. It's tough, you know what I mean, when you prepare and you work, you know, because we work in practice, we do all the things that you're supposed to do going into the game, and guys just didn't step up tonight, and they didn't step up in the Iowa game. You know, I can't go back to past years. Coach was staring me in the face right now, and we just got to continue to work. I mean, still a long season. Hopefully we'll get Malik back soon. He's a big piece to what we do. And we could get guys back playing the way I expect us to play.
What does the record not indicate? It indicates exactly you are what your record says you are. And no, there were not quality wins along the way. See, that's just total BS. Where are they? No, the number was just given to him. And it's like, well, that's ignored. I think that there are so many things that are not acknowledged. I don't know that Indiana uses any or looks at any kind of metrics or anything like that and gets a understanding of what's actually working with their team, or it's just off of the old gut feeling.
Yeah, I do think that it's probably one of those things where they're not looking at like the net and stuff like that, because it's like, well, we got to win the game in front of us. And I like, to a certain extent, I understand. To a certain extent, I understand that point. But like at some point, you have to acknowledge the reality of, hey, we're not only are we losing, we're not competitive in some of these games. You got to figure out why. I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, and trust me, Scott Dolson knows. He knows what's going on. He's not oblivious to this. But again, he's not going to do anything midseason.
He's not.
And I don't know what that would really do. But you know what? To be honest with you, I don't know that it would really hurt, but it would depend on who they put in the position of taking over. And I don't think that would, I don't know. I really don't. I will say this. Normally, I'm not always in favor of making midseason moves. I think it would be the best thing for Indiana right now, in my honest opinion. The team is not rallying. The team is not playing hard. The team does not have pride. The team does not play with pride. They don't play with discipline. They don't play with poise. And they're not only unsuccessful against superior talent, they're woefully like varsity versus JV unsuccessful.
I wouldn't blame him for making a move now. I think that there is a case to be made for it. I think that this team is incredibly. I do think this team is talented. I think that is part of it. That's what's so disappointing about the way this season has gone, especially with some of these games. I do think that that's part of the problem, is that this team is talented and it's just not cashing in on the talent. Because like we've seen it in spurts, right? We've seen it the game against Minnesota, the game against Penn State. This team can play some basketball. It's just not doing it consistently. And again, when it falls behind, it's not really putting that to bear, right? And so I do think you can make a case for it. I don't expect them to do it. I would like to make the point that, and I keep seeing this, and I saw it earlier this season. Scott Dolson has the power here. I like whatever you want to think about how Woodson was hired and why. Scott Dolson is in charge at this point. So he wants to make a call. He's going to make a call. He just hired a coach who took Indiana to the college football playoff. Let me repeat that. He took
his
Indiana
first season.
in his first season, took Indiana to the college football playoff. Scott Dolson is in charge now. I want to be clear about that. So I've heard some doom saying that he will be prevented from making a move even if he wants to, and that is not true. It is not true. He will, if he wants to make a move, he will make a move, and he will have the power to make a hire. That is not me. That is not me having any inside information or into the mind of Scott Dolson. That is the way. That is the way it is going to work for this hire. I guarantee you that.
Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. Cannot thank you enough.
Absolutely, Jim. Thanks for having me on, as always. And I appreciate your kind words earlier. I didn't get a chance to say it, but thank you for your kind words. I appreciate that.
Well deserving. Well deserving. That's going to wrap it up for this side of things. We've got more coming up. Dylan, have a great day. I'll see you at the next one. And I'll see each and every one of you right after this break from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. Hoosier Hanks East, located on College Ball Road in front of Kroger in Bloomington, is everything you could want. Great food like their custom pizzas, wings, wraps, unbeatable daily drink specials, live music on Fridays, and Hoosier Hanks East is home to Inside Indiana Football and Inside Indiana Basketball coaches shows hosted by Don Fisher. Be on the lookout for Hoosier Hanks ticket giveaways to Indiana and Colts games on social media. Stop by and meet Hoosier Hank at Hoosier Hanks East on College Ball Road in Bloomington. Hungry for something a little different? Well, head to the Rusty Gator Fork and Ale in Bedford, where oceanic flavors meet southern charm with a Cajun flair, like their loaded voodoo fries, gator bite, or jambalaya, and so much more. The Rusty Gator also has live music each Friday and Saturday night with some of the best local and regional artists around. Visit the Rusty Gator Fork and Ale in Bedford and get your Cajun on. If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Realty at Cheryl@IndyHomePros.com or 317-701-0838. 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore help you find the home you want today. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum, Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Wednesday. Greatly appreciate you being with us. Joined now by the great Kyle Neddenriep from the Indy Star. And Kyle, how enjoying these temperatures, my friend?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was just trying to keep the dogs from going in and out or staying out, and I forget about them outside. So that's been
trust me, I wouldn't let you forget if I was out there. I got news for you. I walked outside to change my mind, and that was too long to go outside. So the biggest thing I see right now in regards to IHSAA is a bill being put forth by a state representative to force change to the IHSA transfer situation, because we know that the IHSA has been known to be kind of like the NCAA was in the 80s and the 90s, when you couldn't do jack squat. And there have been issues that have come up. Some were really kind of obvious to most people, but not to the IHSAA. And much like NIL and getting any kind of guardrails on that, it's going to take lawmakers to get involved. And this is one where I hate when politicians get involved in sports, because they generally don't know the first thing that they're talking about with whatever the situation is. This one, I think it needs to be addressed.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that last point. And I followed this pretty closely, even over the last, several months, and knew this was coming at some point. Wasn't sure when exactly, but what is pretty much happening here is the lawmakers are putting pressure on the IHSA to make a change here, and the IHSA will make a change. They're going, and I'm not exactly sure what it's going to look like. From what I can, reasonably say, I think it's going to be a one-time sort of and you put quotations on free transfer, because it's not there's still going to be guardrails of, you can't just flat out recruit. If you're found to be recruiting players or undue influence, or past link rule will still be in place. All of those things are still, you're not going to be eligible if those things are found to be true. But the old line of transferring for athletic reasons wouldn't apply if this bill, under the language of this bill, basically. And where that's kind of starting from is school choice. And, that's, something that's been in place now for I have to go back and maybe 13, 14 years, where you can go to schools outside of your district boundary. Now, some schools haven't had open enrollment, but in most cases, you're able to go to a school outside of your district. And now, basically the lawmakers are saying, like, you just because you're going for athletics, that shouldn't be able to stop you. And, Corey Criswell, who is the lawmaker who filed this bill, he's from the Newcastle area. He's actually got a history in athletics, and he's actually working. He's on the staff at the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame as I can't remember the exact title he has. I think he's the development director for them. But he represents District 54, and he's been working with the IHSA, talking to them about what needs to happen here. And so he's been involved in it. He has a background as an assistant athletic director and coach. So he, has some background in athletics, at least, and in schools. So his comment is basically along those lines is, there's been issues with, and I always kind of go back to this too. It's like, well, why did this kid get eligible and this kid didn't? And even I say, and when I've had these conversations with Bobby Cox and Paul Neidig over the years, that is something that has been a criticism of the IHSA. And I think, you could argue at times where, maybe they've overstepped on one case or whatever. And it depends what your viewpoint is, obviously. But, but anyway, I think this would maybe eliminate some of the, some of the gray area, I would say. And I think that would definitely be a positive. Obviously there's concerns about, this opens up a whole can of worms, but I would also argue that's been open, that's not like all of a sudden there's going to be a huge change. I mean, people are transferring now. It's not like, it's not like no one's transferring and getting eligible even, a lot of kids are, so I think there's some, in my viewpoint, there's some good and bad, or there's some positives and negatives, however you want to view it. But I don't know, I think the IHSA is going to end up making a change. And then this bill is just sort of, to hold them to the account of, like, you need to do this. And then so it doesn't really need to become a law or anything. It's just going to be the IHSA changing its bylaws at the end of the day.
Well, anything will be helpful because it's just throughout the years there have been cases where I cannot remember the exact situation, but the kid whose mom actually moved because of her job, I think, and they denied his transfer, and I was like, you got to be kidding me. So
well, a few years ago, yeah, Jaden Brewer he started out at he lived in Wayne Township, and which is Ben Davis. He went to Avon though to start out his career or high school, experience. Played basketball there, but then moved back into the Ben Davis district, or he didn't even move. His mom was still living in the same place, and he didn't get eligible, and then went through the senior year. He was playing JV, which was not, no JV player needs to be playing against a Division I, player like that. And then eventually,
I saw a lot of that last night at the Simon Scott Assembly Hall.
Boom! Where's the where's the drum? Rim shot. But yeah, so. That was a big one, and that went to court, and the judge kind of stomped on the IHSAA in that case, and that was one I followed that one pretty closely, and there's been others. Obviously, Greg Doyle's written a lot about it in the past, and there definitely are cases where you kind of wonder like why is this kid getting held up, and this kid looks like the same situation. And every situation is a little bit different, but regardless, I mean, there is sort of like it seems like. Not every transfer is treated the same way. So at least maybe this, and when I talked to, Corey Criswell, he said, we could always go back if this turns out to be terrible, we could always do something to change it, go back or whatever. So we'll see. I mean, I don't know where it goes in the state house necessarily. They're probably going to wait and see what the IHSAA does, I would think, and I think something will happen. I think it'll probably end up being like a free transfer, and again, I'm saying free as meaning it's a one-time transfer, and then I think they're trying to figure out what you would do with this if a kid transfers a second time. What's kind of the guardrails on that? And I think they will allow you to go back to the school you came from with no questions asked, and that will kind of be But I don't know what they would if you transfer a second time. Is there more restrictions? I don't know if that's been worked out at this point yet.
Absolutely. Another thing I wanted to ask is in regards to prep schools, how much have prep schools eroded the talent base of Indiana basketball? Because I know there are several guys that are not playing this season. There were some from last season, and they don't get to take part in the All-Star game. They don't get to take part in the Mr. Basketball situation. Trent Sisley's one of those currently. And I'm not saying that was a good move for him, to be honest with you. He is thriving at Montverde, and it was the best move for his career, or for him personally. I have no doubts about that. But you can tell because there's no big time players, it seems like. I mean, you've got Mullins, but there's not a lot of them this season.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, and I think I agree. There's not as much, and I mean, honestly, you go to the Hall of Fame, it was awesome. Fishers is you got great stories still, great stories to be told. And there was a lot of buzz about that. And last year, I mean, Flory Badunga, he stayed at Kokomo. Kokomo was absolutely on fire, all of the last 2 years. I mean, that Newcastle Fieldhouse when they played over there was insane. I mean, for the Fishers game. So, there's a lot of good things. I will start from that standpoint, but I would agree with you that I think that some of the defections here, Sisley, and I'm always kind of like, it's a hard thing to sort of I'm always like, where's the juice? Where's in Kokomo that's where the juice, Fishers, they have it right now. Mullins, people want to see Mullins, play, even though he's going to UConn. Imagine if he's going to IU, it'd be so much more juice, but it's like, where's the buzz happening? And I don't sense there's as much of it. And I think that is partly because of the defections, prep school defections, and certainly Sisley is a huge one. And I agree with you. I don't think it was the wrong thing for him to do. That's kind of a different conversation entirely. But I mean, obviously not having him here changes the landscape of everything, as far as Heritage Hills goes, certainly. And definitely he's going to IU, so people would be going to those Heritage Hills games constantly, no matter where they played. So, that changed, that created a void. And obviously there's been others too. And you go down the list of players, Jack Smiley at Valpo, maybe that one didn't have the buzz necessarily, but how much different does that make Valpo this year? They're not really even relevant on a state level. So, and it's only going to continue. I would say, I mean, it's Jalen Harrelson too. I mean, Fishers is fine, obviously, but him leaving obviously changed a lot too. So again, like you said, I don't necessarily disagree. I mean, the prep school landscape has changed even in the last 10 years, quite a bit, I would say. And you go back to 2014, I would say, that's been now 11 years ago, which is hard to believe. But you look at the top players in that class: Trey Lyles, Trayvon Blewett, James Blackman Jr., PJ Thompson was in that class, Brian McIntosh. And that's just an example. All those guys stayed at their high schools throughout their senior year. How many of those guys now would be, I would think, and I know those guys had opportunities at that point to leave. Jaquan Lyle was in that class, and he ended up going to a prep school. But I wonder how many of those guys would even be in high school if it was now. I don't know, and I know there are kids getting, asked all the time to go, and if you want to go, you can go, and those options are available to you. And certainly Mullins had that chance too. He could have gone as well, but I think we're only going to see more of it. I think it's more part of, and again, I'm saying, like, there are great stories out there and will continue to be, but it does erode the talent at the highest level of basketball. I don't think you could argue any other way than that.
Absolutely. What's up next for you, Kyle?
I got the Marion County tournament this week. I got Warren Central and Lawrence North tonight. So there's 4 games on the schedule tonight in the Marion County for the quarterfinals, and then semifinals on Friday at Southport, championship Saturday at Southport.
Enjoy it, man. Have a good weekend. Stay warm.
All right. You too. Thanks, Jim.
You betcha. Thank you. The great Kyle Neddenriep joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Up next, the great one, Rick Bozich, and we're going to get to it, baby. It's time for the Hard Truth at the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios right after this break. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum, Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive.
Country living is just a swing away. It can be hard to find the exact home that fits your family's needs, so there couldn't be a better time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Revesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com.
Hoosier Hanks East, located on College Ball Road in front of Kroger in Bloomington, is everything you could want. Great food like their custom pizzas, wings, wraps, unbeatable daily drink specials, live music on Fridays, and Hoosier Hanks East is home to Inside Indiana Football and Inside Indiana Basketball coaches shows hosted by Don Fisher. Be on the lookout for Hoosier Hanks ticket giveaways to Indiana and Colts games on social media. Stop by and meet Hoosier Hank at Hoosier Hanks East on College Ball Road in Bloomington. Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer. Ugly Grouper, located on beautiful Anna Marie in Florida, is the place to be, and not just because they have unforgettable meals, including locally sourced seafood. The Ugly Grouper has your favorite craft beers and cocktails, along with live music every day. The Ugly Grouper is family-friendly, able to host private parties, and has the biggest grouper you've ever seen. The Ugly Grouper is the place to be on Anna Marie Island, Florida. Tell them Indiana Sports Beat sent you. Go to theuglygrouper.com for more information. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Wednesday, and it feels like Festivus. Got a lot of problems with you people. But no, it's the opposite way around. Rick Bozich joining us from WDRB.com from the friendly confines of Ruby Manor. How's your Wednesday going?
Oh, it's going pretty well, really. And we went out in the 7-degree weather and just took a walk. So got my blood flowing so I could be able to converse with you.
You know, all I could think about is I'm getting ready to adopt a puppy rescue. And all I could think about was, I got to be honest with you, man. I don't want to have to go out there. I go out. I don't go out unless I have to leave for a game or something or for sustenance. It's not worth it. But man, it was something at Simon Scott Assembly Hall last night. Rick, we saw some things we have never seen. And that was an opponent scoring 90 points. That was an opponent scoring 60 points in the first half. Two players. The two freshmen outscored Indiana's entire team in the first half. And I don't know how that's possible. And there's no excuse for it. But the worst thing is, and I've mentioned this during the show today multiple times, I told people, go to our YouTube channel, listen to Brad Underwood when he's answering questions. Yeah, he won the game. That's not the point. Listen to his answers specifically. Then go listen to a Mike Woodson presser. Listen to the question and then listen to the answer. It's like there's no straight line there. The question goes here, and then when it comes time for the answer, it jumps and gets to another track because the answer is usually not answering the question.
That's how it's been, though, from the very beginning. I mean, that hasn't changed. I mean, nothing that's happened this year wasn't predictable, right, Jim? I mean, it's all been very predictable.
Absolutely.
And I think you and I agree that the problem could have been and should have been fixed last year. It was a very obvious solution, and it didn't happen.
Did I tell you the story? I've said it a bunch now. Did I tell you about the story that we were asked to take down?
No.
About this time last year, the Hoosier.com published a story asking if Indiana should be proactive, make a move now, and get someone like Dusty May, who was available before they are not available. And that we were asked to take the story down so Woodson wouldn't see it. And I've regretted it ever since. I will regret it the rest of my life. But you have to understand not you, but people, there's a fine line situation there, but it will aggravate me forever.
What was going to happen if Woodson saw it? He was going to get mad at you, or he was going to get mad at the people at IU, or what
now looking back over everything now, I think that would have fallen into the promoting the not true fans mantra. Okay. Because I think that is what's in his head. If you're not for us, you're against us, which people are not against them. They're not against the team. They're against crappy play. They're against a crappy product when there's no reason for it because the coach is being paid unbelievably well and the players are being paid unbelievably well. All these players are making more money than anybody out there. And So it's okay for them to be questioned, especially when these answers keep coming up about not playing with pride, not playing, all the things that Anthony Leal talked about last night. And I asked, my question to him was, why? Why are they not doing? Why this? Why that? And I'm not trying to pick on Anthony, like I said, but his answer had to do with winning is hard. Well, this has nothing to do with winning, man. I mean, it does ultimately, but why that doesn't answer? Why is this not happening?
Yeah, Woodson, one of the things that's astounded me about him from the very beginning is he coached in the NBA, a head coach at two different cities. One was Atlanta, one was New York, and he was criticized in both those places. I don't know whether he thought when you come back to college that college coaches don't get criticized, or because he was an alum of IU and maybe when he played at IU was a different media environment where there wasn't much criticism. But for him to think that in today's world there's not going to be criticism is delusional. And secondly, so what? I mean,
the worst part is he can't handle it. He has a very thin skin.
No, he can't handle it. And I've read things, on social media and stuff that the players don't like it either. Hey, so what? Don't look at it. I mean, I've taken tons of shots from people through the years. Don't worry about it. Don't read it. It's irrelevant. If you're that soft that you're that concerned about what people are saying to you on social media, no wonder you can't compete, because it's got to be a heck of a lot harder to go out on the floor and compete against Illinois or Nebraska or Iowa than it is to deal with what some person you don't even know says about you on social media. I mean, it's investing too much of your energy in something that's not productive. Focus on your craft, focus on getting better, focus on team building or whatever. And all those things seem to be missing with IU. But like I said in the very beginning, neither one of us are surprised this is happening. This was predictable a long time ago. And we saw it last year. We saw it from the very first year, when they got blown out by St. Mary's in the NCAA tournament. That was an alarming signal that when things got tough, this team at tough times would just give in and collapse. And then it happened again the next year. Even though Trace Jackson Davis saved them and had a great year, they got beat. And I was at that game. You were at that game in Albany, New York against Miami. When things got tough, they weren't going to dig in and win. They got blown out again. And then last year they got blown out repeatedly.
Team has never had toughness since he's been here. And teams are a reflection of the coach.
And he doesn't have answers for what to do. I don't think he acknowledges what the issues are. Like, what do I need to do differently so this doesn't happen? You can't keep doing the same things and expect to have different results. Some things about his system have to change. And I know most of the focus has been on the offense and how he's not really embraced the three-point shot to the level that other schools have. But the defense also needs to change. The defense doesn't put enough pressure on the other team at the point of attack. They don't make the other team uncomfortable. Guys are not forced to get into defensive position and guard your man. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. And teams, you watch them play. How many times do opposing guards who probably aren't as talented have been coached into, you can beat your man off the dribble. He's not going to give you much resistance. Take him right to the hoop and score. And they do it, and it doesn't change. And that goes back to the coaching staff. And, it's just puzzling that it's been allowed to get to this point. It really is.
And not only that, what I just said is the teams are a reflection of their coach. Look at Mackenzie Mbako.
He's checked out, man. Where is he? He's 3 straight games of nothing.
Not only that, the first two, he did completely check out and just was not even there, or didn't play but 15 minutes a game. But to me, again, that's a reflection of the coach.
Yeah.
You have Mike Woodson, who got kicked out of the game last year on purpose because he didn't want to stick around and see it, that butt whipping. Then I wish I could get directly to this question. I didn't have it queued up. I will get it queued up in the break. But he was asked, Mike, how do you explain 60? 125 years of Indiana basketball history, and that's never happened before. How do you explain that? His answer, I wish I knew. You know? No, I don't know. You're being $4 to know. I thought we played better in the second half. What the hell does that
irrelevant? That's irrelevant, man. The game was over.
What does that have to do with
what,
answering the question? They scored 34 in the second half because they didn't need to.
Yeah.
They scored all they needed to score.
It was irrelevant. That's the thing. He doesn't even realize how bad his answers sound. I mean, when I listen to him talk about things like people talk about quad one games and this game's more valuable than that game, I'm not sure he understands how bad he sounds talking about. It's not the NBA. It's not like when you're the Knicks, if you play Charlotte or the Timberwolves or the Atlanta Hawks, every game counts the same. College basketball is different. And so you need to understand that. And he doesn't act like he really either grasps that or wants to talk about it. And it's not a good look for the IU basketball coach.
No, it is not. Oh, here we go.
I mean, it's not.
How do you explain 60? I mean, in the 125-year history of Indiana basketball, that's never happened before. Like, how do you explain that?
I wish I knew. You know, I mean, I thought we played better the second half. They scored, 34 points the second half, but 60 points is just way too many. You know, I just thought our defense and our intensity just wasn't there, and they exploited it.
There you go.
I mean, I can explain it. 60 points is a lack of commitment and a lack of making guys accountable to play defense and to play with tenacity. And at some point, if the guys you're playing aren't doing that, then play different guys. I don't care whether it's 3 walk-ons. You know,
yeah.
I mean, go back and look at Crean's first season when they had whoever they could barely find in recruiting after he got there, Verdell Jones and Malik Story and those dudes.
6 and 28 or
Tom Pritchard, 6 and 25. Tom Pritchard and Kyle Tabor and those Devin Dumas. This team's already got beat by 25. The last 2 games?
They're 5 defeats. All 5 average losses, 22.5 points per game.
I mean, that team wasn't getting blown out back-to-back games like that. They did in Hawaii, but not in the Big Ten. They had a lot
of games they were close to winning that they just didn't get won.
That's right. And that's because he held the guys accountable. Like that's the number one thing. You've got to make guys accountable to play defense. Either you're going to do it or you're not going to play. And for them to they just surrender. And how many, have you ever heard a student section chant what they chanted last night before an IU basketball game? No. I wasn't there.
I didn't get to hear a great deal of the students because the damn band was between me and them.
Oh, they were chanting Fire Woodson.
Yeah. That's only going to get worse.
It's only going to get. It's a toxic place. And
I
so
mean, this is exactly reminiscent of year 4 of Archie Miller.
In some ways, it's worse because you're talking.
Oh yeah,
about,
no, but I meant the same apathetic feeling.
Yeah,
people are waiting for the end of the. At least now they have spring football to look forward to.
Yeah, it's no longer a Mike Woodson question though; it's an administrative question. How are you going to play this out? Are you going to do something about it now, or are you going to do something about it at the end of the season? It's one or the other. I mean, there's no way you can continue with this. It's impossible. So at this point, I would hope or expect there's discussions at IU today about the best way to handle this, because you're talking about a very valuable brand that's being damaged by what's going on, and you need to make some intelligent decisions on what you're going to do to minimize the damage. But at this point, who expects a competitive game at Ohio State Friday?
You know what? I don't, because it's on the road. But
and I don't even know what is the next home game. I haven't even looked.
You know what? They have back-to-back road games
at Ohio State, Northwestern, home against Maryland a week from Sunday.
Yes, Derek Queen in Maryland.
Yeah.
So Derek's going to be fired up to come in. But that's
we're not even talking about the other part of this, Jim, is that all the recruits that have been lost.
Oh, yes. That is never far from
there. All the money that's been spent. That's another difference between this and Archie and Crean.
No doubt. Let's take a break and come back and pick that up.
We could do this. We could talk for the next.
There are so many talking points. It could be a seminar, but we're going to take a seminar break from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. Grateful to have you along. More grateful to have Rick Bozich in the chair. We're back with more right after these messages. Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. When it comes to apparel and promotions, Freethink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. Freethink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. Freethink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what Freethink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com. Enjoy healthy, delicious meals at home without the hassle with the Fresh Fork. Chef-curated, ready-made meals delivered right to your doorstep. Proudly fueling IU athletes and now available to you with a menu that's always fresh and diverse, from hearty proteins to fresh salads. The Fresh Fork empowers you to make better food choices without compromising. Let the Fresh Fork help transform your lifestyle for a healthier way of living today at thefreshforkonline.com. Use promo code RADIO20 and get $20 off of your first order. Hungry for something a little different? Well, head to the Rusty Gator Fork and Ale in Bedford, where oceanic flavors meet southern charm with a Cajun flair, like their loaded voodoo fries, gator bites, or jambalaya, and so much more. The Rusty Gator also has live music each Friday and Saturday night with some of the best local and regional artists around. Visit the Rusty Gator Fork and Ale in Bedford and get your Cajun on. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Wednesday, and that means the great Rick Bozich from WDRB.com is with us. Make sure you're giving him a follow and keeping up with all that he puts out, because it is plenty. I don't even have to bring up the comparisons of Michigan. Nothing to do with Dusty May even, but that's a double hit right there. Actually, Michigan, new coach, new team, they're in first place. Not only that, Dusty May, a coach Indiana, probably should have taken advantage of getting for so many different reasons. But Pat Kelsey, Louisville, Mark Pope, Kentucky, and I'm sure you have others that.
I mean, Chris Beard, second year in at Ole Miss, takes down.
Oh, don't get me started on that one. Oh boy.
Todd Golden, Florida. I mean, there's a bunch of them.
As far as, boy, you know what? There's no point in not looking into the future, because I don't think there's a question that change is coming. We've kind of passed that point. Where does Indiana go next? Because they really have to get this one right. They have fumbled the ball. Tom Crean was not a fumble. Tom Crean brought Indiana back. Hell, he had them ranked number 1 in the nation from the dump. But then Kelvin Sampson, I don't know, was that a bad hire?
No. I mean, yes and no. No, from the standpoint that he's obviously been a winning coach, and what he got in trouble for from the NCAA's minor compared to some other things that have happened and no longer illegal. But it was a bad hire from the standpoint of, you did hire a coach who got in trouble with the NCAA at the time and then broke the same rules. So he had a reckless disregard for running the program the way it should have been run. But, Archie Miller, I thought was a good hire. But it didn't turn out to be that way for whatever reason. And, he, in many ways, was miscast for the job because of his personality. I don't think he wanted to embrace the part of IU basketball that every coach who's there has to embrace, which is you're the face of the university in many ways. Maybe Kurt Signetti will take some of that pressure off you now because of what he's done with IU football. But I don't know. I've looked down the list of different guys and nobody really jumps out. I saw that Jeff Goodman already last night tweeted out something about Scott Drew. I mean, I see Scott Drew as a guy who uses other jobs to get more money or enhance his job at Baylor. He didn't go to Kentucky or Louisville. Why would he come to Indiana? That didn't make any sense to me.
No, I keep my pick is Chris Beard. And I know that I get some pushback on that. And I'm like, look, he gets a second chance in life. And I know he had an issue when he was at Texas. He paid a heavy price. But now it's time to move forward. He is a winner. He's won everywhere he's been, and he's young enough to where he would be around for a while. He's successful. And this would also check a box that I don't think needs to be checked at all. But it checks the Bob Knight box, unbelievably, because he's a former assistant to Bob Knight. But most importantly of all, he wins. And he wins in this day and age, and he wins quickly. If he can turn a program like Ole Miss around, they don't have any basketball tradition or history. What the hell would someone do at an Indiana?
Yeah, I think I told you I was on the day after they played here against Louisville, and I've heard a lot of different things about Beard, pro and con. I know he's a phenomenal coach. There's some people that don't like him for a variety of reasons and don't think he would work at IU. But I'll just say this, from the 8 or 10 minutes in the press conference, he was impressive in terms of answering questions, and wasn't a smart aleck or anything like that. And he listened to what the questions were and explained them in reasonable ways. And it's watching his team play. I mean, they played defense. They were connected. They weren't careless with the ball. There wasn't any question about their effort. They beat Louisville pretty convincingly, and they're good. So whether or not the university would hire him because of what went on in his background, I don't know. But in terms of just basketball coaching, I doubt if you can get many guys better than Chris Beard. I mean, he's been to the national championship game at Texas Tech.
And how long does he have to carry carry that cross?
Right.
Like I said, he paid a heavy price, and
he lost his job and sat out for a year and had to go to Ole Miss.
So I think Indiana has to look at something. do they want to win? And I'm not saying win at all costs and bring in the devil or something like that. You don't have to do that. You can go make a good hire, and it may not be Chris Beard, but I'm just using him as an example. You get somebody like that, Indiana starts winning next season. I don't know what they would do as far as making a run, but I would bet that they make the tournament next season, because we've seen too many coaches do it. And there has not been a program more suited for benefiting from NIL and the transfer portal than Indiana basketball. It was the golden ticket to get back to being what they were.
I mean, Dusty May and Mark Pope and Pat Kelsey are all doing it this year in year one, with Kentucky and Louisville specifically entirely new rosters. And Pope even got hired late in the process. So yeah, it can be done. Just got to settle on the right guy. And that's, like I said, I mean, the decision they have to make is, do you want to wait and do it at the end of the year, or do it now and put somebody else in charge and see if you can still salvage some of this season and, give the fans a reason to re-engage? Because if you don't, I mean, how many more nights are going to be in that building like the one that were there last night? I mean, once that kind of behavior starts, it's not going to stop if they see another 55 to 28 first half against somebody, and they're Purdue, or especially if it's Purdue or Maryland could do that to them. There's some other good teams in the Big Ten that come in there and do that to them.
Yeah, the schedule coming up, the next couple, they've got back-to-back road games. Then they play against a Maryland team that is beatable. After that, it gets real. 5 out of 6
the next
games.
5 on the road. I mean, I think.
Well, I know that they have back-to-back road games, but then they come home against Maryland. But after that, they play 5 out of 6 games against ranked Big Ten teams. The one that's not ranked is at Wisconsin. So that may be the hardest for them to win it of all.
Yeah, I mean, it's at Ohio State, at Northwestern, Maryland at home, at Purdue, at Wisconsin. So 4 of the next 5 are on the road. They could easily lose all 5. They might win 1. At best, I think they'll win 2. But, I don't know. It's the other thing I'll bring up is, and I'm not sure if we talked about this or not, but there's such a contrast over the weekend of Indiana goes into Iowa and plays a terrible Iowa team on defense, didn't they give a ton of points up last night, get beat against USC? Pretty sure they did. And they lose and get blown out. And then the very next day, the women's team, which struggled early in the year, lost to Butler, lost to an Ivy League team, goes in and plays a ranked Iowa team and leads the whole game. Why? Because they have a coach who improves the team, and because they have a culture, and because they have a commitment to winning. And I wonder how much the commitment is to winning on this team, as much as it's a commitment to NIL and trying to have individual success. It surely doesn't seem like a commitment to winning.
And I hate to bring this up because it sure sounds like I'm picking on Anthony Leal, and I'm not. Anthony's a great young man. So let me say that right now. I know him. I like him. This is not about him, but a fan mentioned this, brought this up, commented, and said maybe he should be more focused on winning in basketball than real estate and selling pizzas, which, with his pizza deal that he's got going. And there is something to that, because that used to be a thing in pro sports. You're like, is this dude more into playing or marketing himself? And that's trickled down to the high school or to the college level. And, Don Fisher on Monday said he thought the money had a lot to do with it. I don't know. I don't think it's the money. It's just the players, because I'm pretty sure players on Kentucky or Auburn or Ole Miss or Iowa State, they're all getting paid, people. Kansas, you think Kansas doesn't have the biggest they're like the New York Yankees of college basketball, man. They're not having those issues.
Iowa, for the record, gave up 99 yesterday and lost to USC. Indiana scored 60 on them. No, you're right. And Leal, hopefully learned from his lesson of don't push back on the fans and tell them to chill.
He did it again last night, though.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, that it came right after the question I asked, so I should be able to just run this.
Either one of you, but Anthony, since you've been here the longest, you've already acknowledged what you guys probably need to do as a team and whatnot. But my question is, how this late in the season does a team not come out prepared to play, not come ready to give everything, not come ready to do all the things you guys have spoken about?
Sure. Well, winning's obviously hard, and like Luke said, at the first media timeout, it was 10-8, so it's not like we weren't coming out ready to play per se. I think it's just understanding how hard winning is and what it requires, and the fact that you have to be able to sustain punches, remain composed, and take the runs, because it's a game of runs. And we have to get better in that department, and just remaining composed, staying true to our scouts, staying true to our offensive concepts and the things that we've had success with in the future. It just can't be done in spurts, and it's got to be able to be done when it gets tough. So I think that's really what it comes down to, and hopefully we'll be able to put that together.
Luke, the crowd was pretty restless tonight. Even from the beginning of the game, before the game even started. Just, I guess, what do you say to the fans, who are reacting and lashing out almost the way they were tonight, and I guess for why they should stick by you?
Yeah, I understand it. We got embarrassed. We have to wear this jersey with more pride. As Indiana basketball players, this program is too historical and too great to be represented like that. But to all those fans that were booing and are so negative on social media, just don't switch sides when we get this thing turned around. We all got the confidence in our teammates, got the confidence in our coaches. So just stay on that side when we start being successful again.
Agreed.
Agreed. I was like, oh, dude, why did you do that? That was, I was like, come on. Because I heard that in my ear immediately, and I'm like, man, come on, man.
I mean, they're spending too much time looking at that stuff. I mean, that's my takeaway. That stuff's all irrelevant. You think that Illinois players didn't get criticized by their fans on social media when they lost to Southern Cal over the weekend? I mean, I'm sure they did. Do you think that, North Carolina players aren't getting roasted by their fans on social media when they lose games they shouldn't lose? It happens NFL, it happens everywhere. But that can't be any part of your equation as a college basketball player. And it needs to be, you got to put all that stuff behind, and you can't, the praise is irrelevant too. I mean, it's not, none of it's relevant. Just do your job and work on your craft and get better and build a team culture where there's enough pride and competitiveness where games like that don't happen. I mean, that's the way you have to approach it.
Joe says that he would say IU has a higher probability of not getting to the Big Ten tournament than making it to the NCAA tournament. Well, you don't get to the Big Ten tournament, you're not going to the NCAA. That's a fact. But I don't see this team missing the Big Ten tournament only.
How many
because
teams don't go? Three?
Only because of Minnesota, USC, and I forget who the other one was. Rutgers is falling into that category. Rutgers is falling, but they got a big win the other night. So, but I forget who that third team is. I don't expect Indiana to be that far down. They will be a first day play team.
Northwestern is the other one
who Indiana plays. So, I don't see that happening. I definitely do not. I've said this for weeks. I definitely don't see this team is not going to the NCAA tournament. That's not going to happen. Their net ranking is now 64, Rick. They dropped 4 spots after last night's game. So I honestly, gosh, I would make the move now. I really would. Because
who would you put in charge?
Calbert Chaney. Only with my only fear from that is you'd have a bunch of Indiana fans that would want him to be made the permanent head coach afterwards. They have to go hire a proven winner. There no tryouts, no.
Yeah.
They can't
And
afford.
they
I don't
need
think
to-
they can afford to get a Pat Kelsey. Although
They
that's
need
with,
to change the entire regime, though. I mean, they need to bring in new trainers, new doctors, new strength and conditioning. New,
well, you still have Archie Miller holdovers on the coaching staff.
Well, I mean, you have longer than that. I mean, you got to have. It's got to be a whole new. It's got to be a total scrub, just like it was with Signetti. You bring in all the guys. He kept Bostad because he wanted to. Other than that, it's a whole new deal, and that's the way it's going to have to be. They're going to have to rethink the way they do things because this isn't working.
Well, speaking of which, a third ex-player has joined that lawsuit against Indiana.
And was
and
it John Flowers?
Yeah, he transferred out and went to UNLV, and this is way back in the Bob Knight days. But also, the amended suit now includes Tim Garl, the trainer, long time trainer, only because he knew about it. Everybody knew about it. I mean, the players, they would all make fun of each other. But now you've got him named in that. He's been around for a long time. Indiana has become a good old boy network, not just in coaching, but throughout athletics.
Like I said, they need to do what they did with football and Signetti. And I'm sure Terry Moore brought in all her own people when she came and took over too. You got two really good coaches on that staff there who built programs where there was nothing, and talk to them about what they need to look for in coaches, what they value, what's important. You got two really good resources there. They can tell you because they're getting it done. And the basketball program is massively underachieving.
And you have to make a change. Otherwise, how are you going to get people to give them the NIL money they gave last year?
Right.
This team, I don't know what the actual figure is. It's never what people report, but I know it's up there. These guys are all making crazy money, and they're not putting out the product that they're getting paid for. So that
whether they were or weren't getting paid, though, I mean, it's not what the standard of Indiana basketball is. There's a standard of what it needs to be. And as I said earlier on, even when Tom Crean was hopelessly outmanned that first year, they weren't getting embarrassed like that.
No, and I thought about this last night as well. Michael Kay says losing doesn't seem to upset Woodson. He just gets bewildered. I agree with that exactly.
I agree. Yeah, there's no and I think that trickles down to the team. There's no urgency. There's no like edge to the whole situation of like, yeah, that was a bad thing. I mean, that was a bad deal last night. And he didn't really act like he said the word embarrassed, but he blew off fish, right? I mean, how does that happen?
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that. I wanted to mention that when I was talking about getting the technicals and kicked out of the game. He did the same thing. He ran away and did not want to answer to it. And I'm like, what the hell? Grow a pair.
Well, I mean, the people that are still listening after a blowout are really committed fans. They want to hear what you have to say, right?
And you're getting paid to do it.
And you're insulting them because they want to know what's going on, and it's part of your job to tell them. And Fish is an Indiana legend. He's one of the most respected radio play-by-play guys in the country. He doesn't ask gotcha questions. He speaks, respectfully to the coaches, and to just blow him off, that should never happen.
Nope, it sure shouldn't. What is up next for you, brother? After you get past this debacle, you've got to have something coming out.
I'm writing that. I'm working on an IU basketball column as we speak. It'll be posted later this afternoon. In terms of game wise, I watched the Louisville women on Thursday night there at home, and Saturday Louisville, which won I don't even remember what it was last year. 8 games, 6 games. It wasn't many. I think it was 8. They're home. They're going for their 8th straight win tomorrow. They're going to be back in the top 25 next week. They blew out Syracuse in the Carrier Dome last night, and now they got Virginia at home, and they beat Virginia already at Virginia by 20. So they're in second place in the ACC. Man, the only team ahead of them is Duke. How about that?
Not bad, not bad. Cannot tell you how much I appreciate you, brother. And hopefully,
I said one thing. There's more comments than I ever seen on here. So,
I can't even get to them all. I can't even get to them all.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest, Jim. I mean, what percentage of the IU fan base do you think is still behind Mike Woodson?
The
less than 10.
I was thinking 10 to 20 because they're just they're the type of that or not able to really see.
Right.
I had somebody comment just yesterday. God, they're 13-4. What are you guys complaining about? They had one bad game in 9, and I'm like, let me give you some numbers. So that takes care of that. Rick Bozich, cannot thank you enough, brother.
All right, thanks, Jim.
You betcha. That's going to wrap it up. I cannot thank each and every one of you enough for joining us on the program today. We're back tomorrow to do it all again. We'll plenty to talk about, and we'll get to it. K-Bro going to join us tomorrow. Looking forward to that. Appreciate you guys so much. Until the next time I see ya, which better be tomorrow, I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.